Hello. Before I tell you what happened and what I saw, what changed my world forever, you need to know who I was. I was Sophia. I was 34, living in Porto, Portugal. I wasn't a saint. I wasn't a confirmed atheist. I was an almost. Almost happy, almost fulfilled, and almost a believer. Sophia's life, the one everyone saw, was a facade of normality. I worked in graphic design, vibrant colors, digital projects, a modern life full of likes. But inside, there was a silent grayness. I looked up at the sky, noticed the cold stars, and a question kept pounding in my soul. Is there really something more? I was raised in the faith, like many of you, but the weight of adult life and the mountain of world information made me doubt. I read about spirituality, watched videos like this one, but my faith was an atrophied muscle that I rarely exercised. I wondered, if God is love, why is there so much pain in the world? Why the emptiness I feel on Sunday nights? This doubt, this spiritual gap, was my greatest truth. I feared death not for the ending, but for the possibility that there was nothing. And that's why what happened to me is not a story of blind faith, but a forced testimony. A revelation shouted in the face of my doubt. I was on the brink of a discovery, but I didn't know the price would be my own life. I want to start by asking you, honestly, what do you think happens the instant life fades away? Do you think it's the end or the beginning? Tell me in the comments. Your answer is important to me, and for what I'm about to tell you. My professional life as a graphic designer in Porto was successful, on paper. My motivation was simple, yet exhausting: providing. My biggest goal, the real engine of my life, was my little sister Clara. She was 12 years younger, and after our parents passed away 5 years prior, I became her anchor. I worked grueling hours, perfecting logos and campaigns, chasing deadlines that felt more important than sleep. My purpose was tangible: making enough money to ensure Clara finished her university, far from the financial struggles we had known. But this focus, this tireless effort, had a cost. I was building a solid financial fortress, but neglecting the walls of my own soul. I was so busy securing the future that I forgot to live the present or question the ultimate future. Every day, the same route, the noise of the tram, the smell of rain on the asphalt, the artificial light of my monitor. I was running on a treadmill of obligation. Yet, in those small breaks, in the silence after turning off my computer, the unspoken search always returned. I'd catch myself researching ancient texts or the physics of consciousness late at night. I wasn't looking for God in a church. I was looking for proof, for certainty, for a sign that the sacrifice, the fatigue, the constant hustle had a meaning beyond the bills. I believed that if I pushed hard enough, controlled my environment, and planned every detail, I could stave off chaos. Irony, isn't it? The universe had a very different plan for revealing the truth to me, one that involved an absolute loss of control. This was Sophia, a woman driven by love and obligation, haunted by doubt, meticulously planning a future she wouldn't even reach in the way she imagined. She was a perfect example of someone living, but not truly believing. Have you ever felt like you were living your life on autopilot, just chasing obligations? What is the biggest sign you look for to prove there's something more? Share your deep thoughts with us in the comments. We are all searching together. It was a Tuesday night, the kind of night where the sky feels heavy and the road is a slick, black mirror. I was driving back from a late client meeting, pushing my small car a little too fast. I was tired, my mind racing through Clara's tuition fees, completely immersed in the material world. I remember checking the time on the dashboard, 11:37 p.m. That number is now etched into my mind like a scar. The rain was relentless, and then it wasn't the rain I heard. It was the sound of something massive tearing through the quiet night. A truck, an articulated lorry, hydroplaned on a turn just ahead. It looked less like a vehicle and more like a metal beast suddenly losing its footing. It jackknifed across all 3 lanes. For a moment, my world shifted into slow motion. I hit the brakes, but the car just slid, a helpless metal sled on the wet asphalt. The headlights of the truck, blinding, cruel eyes, grew instantly, monstrously large. I didn't scream. There was no time for fear, only for a sharp, chilling clarity. I saw the flash of the truck's logo, the muddy tires, the sheer impossibility of stopping. In that single second, as the metal groaned and the sound of the impact began to devour the air, I didn't think of Clara, or my job, or my doubts. I thought, is this it? Is this how it ends? Then the world shattered. The sound was deafening, a visceral explosion of crushing metal, breaking glass, and the violent deployment of the airbag. My body was violently thrown against the restraints, every bone in my face and chest protesting the sudden, brutal stop. The smell of burning rubber, gasoline, and hot metal filled the air, acrid and final. Everything went dark, not slowly, like falling asleep, but instantly, like someone ripped the plug from the universe. The silence that followed the explosion was the most terrifying sound I have ever heard. When faced with an immediate, life-threatening danger, what do you think the last thought of a person is? Is it a prayer or a regret? Pause the video and share your most honest answer in the comments right now. The noise stopped, but the pain didn't. It was an overwhelming, crushing reality. I was trapped. I tried to move, but a terrifying stillness held me fast. My breath was shallow, ragged, and each inhalation felt like shards of glass moving inside my chest. Then, the coldness began. It wasn't the temperature of the night. It was a deep, internal chill that started in my extremities and moved inexorably toward my center. It was the sensation of vital energy receding, like a tide going out, never to return. The ringing in my ears amplified, turning into a singular, piercing tone that drowned out the distant sounds of sirens starting to converge. My vision blurred. I could feel the life, my awareness, myself, slipping, like sand through my fingers. This is the moment I want you to truly understand, the moment of giving up. The pain reached a peak, a final unbearable intensity, and then it vanished. I felt a sudden, profound release, like a heavy, waterlogged coat being shrugged off. The piercing tone stopped. The coldness was replaced by a comforting warmth, and the frantic fear in my chest dissolved into a simple, beautiful curiosity. I was no longer in the car. I was above it. I saw the crumpled steel of my vehicle, the rain still falling, and the first responders rushing toward the scene, but my perspective was floating, effortlessly observing the chaos below. And then I saw her, my body, slumped and still, unrecognizable amongst the destruction. It looked small, insignificant, and strangely not mine. There was no sadness, no grief, just an extraordinary lightness, a sense of absolute freedom from gravity, from pain, and from fear. It was a farewell to my physical self, a calm acknowledgement that the biological journey was over. The doubt I had carried for 34 years, the fear that there was nothing, was instantly gloriously refuted. If you could observe your own life from above, free from your body and your worries, what do you think would be the first thing you'd regret not doing, or regret doing? Share your deep, honest thought below. We are now entering a dimension where honesty is the only currency. The sensation of floating above the accident was brief. It was merely the doorway. Because suddenly, I was pulled, not by a force of gravity, but by a force of love. It was like being magnetically drawn toward the most beautiful light I could never have imagined. This wasn't the harsh, blinding glare of the sun or a spotlight. This was pure illumination, warm, intelligent, encompassing, and utterly free of judgment. It was a light made of unconditional acceptance. I began to move rapidly, as if traveling through a vast, silent tunnel, or perhaps not a tunnel at all, but a transition state. Everything I had ever known, the worries, the deadlines, the doubt, even the pain of the accident, simply fell away. I felt an indescribable peace, a peace so absolute that it makes every moment of calm on earth feel like an anxious tremor. In that space, thought was instantaneous. I didn't think in words, I knew in totality. And the first thing I knew was this: I had come home. I realized that the reality we perceive with our five senses is a mere sliver, a dark film over a brilliant, vibrant, living dimension. The colors here were beyond the spectrum of human vision. The air vibrated with a palpable sense of purpose. As I moved closer to the source of the light, I began to perceive presence. It felt like the culmination of all the wisdom, all the kindness, and all the love that has ever existed in the universe, condensed into a brilliant, loving focus. There was no fear of being judged for my doubts or my imperfections, only overwhelming, exhilarating relief. My entire being recognized the light, not as a concept, but as the very source of my own existence. This was the answer to the silent question I carried on my Sunday nights. The answer was not a what, but a who. If this light were the destination of your journey, what is the one question you would ask it, knowing it would provide a complete and immediate answer? Write your question in the comments. Be brave, be honest, and let's explore this dimension together. As I surrendered completely to the light, the presence coalesced. It didn't have a human body, yet I recognized it immediately, not through my eyes, but through my soul's memory. It was an entity of immense power and perfect gentleness, radiating a truth so fundamental it redefined my every concept of reality. It communicated not with sound, but with pure thought and feeling, flooding me with understanding. In that instant, my intellectual, skeptical self vanished. My soul, stripped bare of earthly confusion, knew exactly who was before me, and the name that formed, not on my lips, but in the deepest core of my consciousness, was Jesus. But this was not the Jesus of stained glass windows or rigid dogma. This was the Christ consciousness, the living embodiment of pure, creative love, the source of the light itself. He looked upon me with an infinite compassion that burned away every mistake, every fear, every inadequacy I had ever felt. There was a moment of the life review, although it wasn't a cold judgment, it was a shared experience. I saw my life played back, but I felt the impact of my actions on others, the joy I caused, and the careless hurts. I felt Clara's loneliness when I prioritized work, and the small, unnoticed kindnesses I had forgotten. The present simply held me in this understanding, without condemnation. He showed me that the only true measure of life is love. Then the embracing warmth shifted. The communication became focused, urgent, transmitting a message not about my past, but about the world's immediate future. A deep sense of cosmic gravity settled around us. The presence transmitted, "The time is short, the preparation is incomplete." He was preparing to show me something, a scene, a vision, so vivid and crucial that its memory alone would be the mission of my life. I was trembling with spiritual anticipation, knowing I was about to be given a glimpse behind the veil of the present and into the most pivotal moment of human history. If you had the absolute certainty that you were communicating with Jesus Christ, or the supreme source of love, what is the most important lesson you would beg him to teach humanity right now, before the final events unfold? Share your plea in the comments. Let your voice be heard. The presence, which I now definitively called Christ, did not speak of dates or geopolitical maps. He communicated in pure, raw vision, a torrent of imagery and undeniable truth about the return that will shock everyone still clinging to old, limited ideas. The vision was split into two parts. First, the unprepared world. I saw the earth plunged into a period of self-inflicted chaos, not a war of nations, but a breakdown of humanity's core values. The vision showed extreme division, the worship of technology over true connection, and a terrifying global apathy to suffering. It wasn't fire and brimstone, it was spiritual starvation. People were looking up, waiting for a savior in the clouds, while ignoring the light they were meant to be. I saw people running away from the celestial light, mistaking it for a threat because their inner world was too dark to receive pure love. The warning was clear. We are looking for the spectacular, but ignoring the spiritual foundation. Second, the nature of the return. The present showed me that the return of Jesus is not a solitary figure descending to earth to physically save only a few chosen people. The ultimate event is the mass awakening of the Christ consciousness within all humanity, ready to receive it. It will be a global, simultaneous infusion of divine awareness. It will feel like the sudden, overwhelming connection I was experiencing in the light, but distributed across the planet. A final, definitive chance for transformation. The presence emphasized, "I have always been here." The return is when humanity finally turns inward and recognizes me in themselves and in each other. The time is now, because the global darkness is making the choice unavoidable. The shock was this: the return is imminent, but it is not a rescue mission for the passive. It is an activation. I was shown that the preparation is not building shelters, but building love, repairing broken relationships, choosing compassion over conflict, and recognizing the divine spark in every struggling person, especially those who disagree with us. This is the crucial question based on my vision. Are you waiting for a visible, physical sign in the sky to prove your faith? Or are you working every day to make the Christ consciousness real in your interactions here on earth? Tell me in the comments. This is a matter of urgency, not debate. The vision left me breathless, even though I had no lungs to breathe with. The presence then transmitted the global theme of the moment, the critical juncture where humanity stands right now. The core message was tied to the concept of global stewardship and unity. Christ showed me that the greatest blasphemy of our time is the willful destruction of the earth, our shared temple, and the systemic marginalization of the vulnerable. You cannot claim to love the Creator if you destroy the creation and abandon your siblings. was the clear, piercing feeling transmitted to me. The urgency was not about a specific timeline, but about a critical mass of consciousness. We are accelerating towards a tipping point, where the choices we make now, about our planet, about inequality, about forgiveness, will determine the ease or the agony of the Great Awakening. My mission was made terrifyingly clear. I had to go back. I tried to resist. I pleaded to stay in that perfect peace, far from the doubt, the pain, and the chaos of the material world. But the presence was firm, yet loving. You have been given the truth not for your comfort, but for the world's need. Go and be the catalyst. Tell them what the return truly is. Tell them they are ready, but they are distracted. My task was seemingly impossible: to bridge the gap between absolute spiritual truth and the stubborn skepticism of the material world. To tell sophisticated modern people that the cosmic event they fear or wait for is actually a profound shift within their own hearts. I was being sent back as a messenger, burdened with the most vital secret in the universe, knowing I would be met with ridicule, disbelief, and fear. The peace I had just found was being exchanged for a life of spiritual struggle and public vulnerability. Do you believe that personal, spiritual transformation can truly impact global events like climate change or war? Or do you think our problems are too big for individual change? Let me know in the comments. I need to know if the world is ready to hear this message. The decision was final. The presence didn't push me. He simply withdrew the anchor of the light. The transition was not gentle. It was a violent, painful snap back into my broken form. One moment I was in infinite peace, basking in the love of the Creator. The next, I was experiencing every fractured bone, every torn tissue, every agonizing second of the crash, all at once. The icy gasp was the sensation of my spirit slamming back into the confinement of my lungs. I was in the body, but the body was dying. I heard muffled voices. "We have a pulse. She's back." Opening my eyes was a monumental effort. The white light of the hospital room was harsh, unbearable, a cruel mockery of the light I had just left. The first few days were a confusing, agonizing blur of tubes, painkillers, and the relentless, suffocating reality of being back. The physical pain was immense, but the spiritual pain was worse. I felt in crushing homesickness for the source. The world, which I once found merely doubtful, now felt deafeningly loud, dark, and utterly unreal. I knew the truth, but I couldn't articulate it. My voice was weak, and the doctors only heard trauma. When I tried to speak of the light, of Christ, and the imminent awakening, they listened with professional patience, diagnosing it as drug-induced confusion or post-traumatic stress. My greatest struggle was reconciliation. How do you go from knowing the universal, unifying love to arguing over parking spots? How do you maintain the urgency of a cosmic message while relearning how to walk? The vision, however, was not a dream. It was a scorching, indelible reality etched onto my soul. It was the weight I now carried, the duty to share the ultimate truth about the return, no matter how isolating it might be. I survived to tell you this, to plant the seed of urgency and self-reflection. If you miraculously returned from death with a world-changing secret, who would be the first person you would confide in? And what would you tell them first? Share your confession in the comments. Let's start the dialogue. It took months for me to fully heal the body that died on that highway near Porto. It took much longer to heal the soul that had seen eternity. I am not a prophet, nor a priestess. I am simply Sophia, the designer, the sister, who was given the ultimate education in 3 minutes of clinical death. And this is the message I risked paradise to bring back. The return of Christ is not an event to be passively awaited. It is a consciousness to be actively cultivated. The greatest danger is not some global catastrophe. It is the delay in our transformation. We are on the clock. The world is being prepared for this mass infusion of light, and our individual preparedness is the only currency that matters. My secret is now your burden, your opportunity. The vision showed me that every act of genuine kindness, every choice to forgive instead of retaliate, every effort to protect the earth is a direct preparation for the Great Awakening. You don't need to look up. You need to look inward and then outward with active, powerful love. I know this story sounds impossible. I know the scientific mind demands proof, but I lived the proof. I was the skeptic who was forced to face the overwhelming reality of the divine. And I am here now, fully alive, not to convince you of my experience, but to urgently prompt you to prepare your own consciousness. If you take one thing from my journey, let it be this: the greatest work you will ever do is the work on your own soul. Stop waiting for the signs in the sky. Become the light the world desperately needs. Now, I need your help to spread this urgent message. I shared the deepest truth I possess. If this story resonated with even a fragment of your soul, if it challenged your doubts or affirmed your faith, I beg you. 1. Write, "The awakening is now," in the comments below. This is our collective affirmation of urgency. 2. Share this video. Every share is a seed of the light planted in the world. 3. Subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you are committing to follow this journey of truth and transformation. I have so much more to tell you about the reality beyond the veil, and I will be releasing more videos soon. Don't let this be just another video you watched. Let it be the catalyst for the change you are meant to be. The time is short. The choice is ours. Thank you for listening to my truth. Until next time, be the light.